Welcome everyone to SuiteWorld Survival Guide, your ultimate first-timers roadmap. I'm Rashi and I head marketing here at 2979 Consulting, and I'm absolutely thrilled you've joined us today. Before we dive into the survival tips that hopefully will save your feet, your sanity, let me set the stage. We're coming to you from 2979 Consulting. We are NetSuite consulting powerhouse, and we've been around for 18 plus years. We have a 150 plus member team with 200 plus clients. We've been around. We help companies transform their businesses through smart NetSuite solutions. So, we have a prolific suite app portfolio, we do implementations, we do optimizations, we do support, everything under the NetSuite sun, basically. Now, you might be wondering, why are we hosting a survival guide webinar for SuiteWorld? Well, it's kind of simple. We've collectively spent decades attending SuiteWorld and making every possible mistake and learning these hard-earned lessons. And we figured, well, why should you have to suffer through the same learning curve we did? Plus, we're going to be at SuiteWorld this year, booth number 332 to be exact. And we'd rather meet people who actually know what they're doing instead of folks wandering around looking a little bit lost. So with that, let me introduce you to our perfect panel. We've got Kishore. He is the founder of 2979 Consulting. He has survived, I'm guessing, more than 15 suite worlds. He'll tell you the exact number. And he can spot a rookie mistake, likely from across the expo hall. And then we've got Scott. He's our senior NetSuite architect and also our VP of optimization strategy. He's been there twice. And we thought that would be a good mix because it's recent enough to remember every painful first-timer blunder, but maybe experienced enough to know what actually works. Do you guys want to go?
Yeah.
You sure?
Thanks, Rashi. I've lost my count after 15, but my liver keeps a detailed score. I really watched this conference grow from a few hundred people in a small venue in San Francisco downtown to 15,000 plus people extravaganza today. I've made every mistake possible, learned from most of them, and I'm still making new ones.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of the young guy of the group as far as my attending SuiteWorld. I thankfully I have been a couple of times, so I'm past my rookie mistakes, but I'm still fresh enough to kind of remember what it's like to get that first email and wonder what I was getting myself into. So I enjoy going to NetSuite and looking forward to going again this year.
Great. So for anyone who's new to this whole thing, guys, what exactly is SuiteWorld?
Actually, great question, Rashi. SuiteWorld is Oracle NetSuite's annual user conference. Think of it as a big family reunion for NetSuite users, partners, employees, and developers. Except that this family meets in Vegas every year and talks about ERP over drinks.
That's actually a good way to think about it. Yeah, I mean, so it's 4 days of sessions. You have opportunities to network. They have big product announcements, and of course, plenty of Vegas fun if you're into that. This year's SuiteWorld is from October 6th to the 9th, and it's at Caesars Forum. And the fun part about it is you get all variety that are attending. You get CFOs, controllers, accounting types. You get developers and IT. You just get a wide mix of folks that come that are all invested in NetSuite and all want to learn.
Great. That's really cool, Scott. So what are we doing here? I mean, besides corrupting first-timers with some survival wisdom.
Well, for starters, we are a sponsor this year. We'll be at the booth number 332 in the expo hall. Please do come and say hi, showcasing some of our latest suite apps and offerings. But more than that, we love being part of the community and cheerleaders for NetSuite and all the clients. So we want to connect with as many folks from the community, and some of our best partnerships and client relationships started with random conversations at SuiteWorld.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a great year this year. We're excited to be there. We're excited to talk to our customers. We'll meet some of our customers there, talk to folks that are attending. And one of the great things is we get to kind of test our ideas on real world experts. We're going to meet a lot of other NetSuite experts there. So we get to kind of share what we've been working on and get their feedback and input. And this year is going to be really interesting because if you look at the courses this year, 68 of the courses have something to do with AI. So I'm really interested to see what Oracle has to share with us about their AI movement, because obviously that's what everybody's talking about right now.
Wow, so this is going to be an AI fest. Amazing. Looks very interesting. So today's mission is rather simple, guys. We want to make sure when you get to Vegas, you're not the person wandering around the expo hall looking confused, or the one who schedules, I don't know, 17 sessions on the first day and burns out by the next afternoon. We want you to be strategic. We want you to have fun and hopefully get the ROI from your trip. Sounds good? So let's dive in.
Yep.
Okay. So first big question, and this is to you, Scott. Let's address the elephant in the room, right? SuiteWorld in early October. Now, that is a tricky one for many finance professionals. I mean, and this means I'm talking about month-end chaos. How do you make it worthwhile when you're already stressed about leaving during a busy season?
Man, this one strikes really close to home because the first year that I went, that's exactly what we were dealing with. I felt even a little bit selfish for leaving right in the middle of it to go to this conference. I'm heading off to have a good time, so to speak, while the team's back dealing with month end. Look, there's a lot of things you can do to make that smoother. But for me, what is the most important about this is that when you come to SuiteWorld, you actually learn ways to make your month end smoother. So it's an investment in that month end process. So yeah, it's hard to be away during month end, but the best part is like when that first year that I went, I found an automation that reduced our month end process from 12 days down to 4 days. We were feeling pretty good at 12 days, and we reduced it much more just from the automations that we found. So this is a big part of going, is that it's a little bit of an inconvenience at this time of year to be there during the month end close, but you come back with the ways to make all the rest of your month end closes so much better.
Yeah. One of the common things that finance team or a lot of users say is we can't afford to take time during the month-end closure while spending 40 plus hours on manual processes that could be automated. There are sessions specifically to help eliminating these bottlenecks and make the process more efficient. If you're missing the conference because of the month-end problems, but keep in mind the conference has the solutions to some of your month-end problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole thing, is that if you can go to a conference, even if it's in the middle of your month end close, and find the tools to make that month end much more smooth, you can turn that month end process from a marathon into a sprint just by what you can learn at SuiteWorld.
Yes, and speaking of which, we actually have a month-end close accelerator tool in our portfolio that exactly does that. Funny how these problems have a way of solving themselves when you come to the booth 332. Come check us out and also get free trial to the connector.
Amazing. You don't forget the key details, Kishore, ever. So thank you for saying that again. Okay, so that's been helpful, guys. Another thing that comes up often is it worth the investment? Kishore, let's start with you. Go back to your first timer perspective, whenever that was, and do you think SuiteWorld's actually worth the investment? Because, let's be honest, it's really not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap. And my first SuiteWorld, I traveled all the way from India, right? But neither is therapy when your processes are all manual and not streamlined. Here's the math. If one automation can save your team about 10 hours per month, then that's $6,000 annually. The conference pays for itself with one good solution.
Yeah, it's a good perspective, Kishore. I mean, I remember asking my management for, the approval to go to SuiteWorld the first time. And, it was a little bit of taking it on faith that it would be a worthwhile thing for me to be there. But, there are so many benefits to coming. I mean, not only did we find these great automations, it saves us, hours per month. I mean, beyond monthly close, I found automations in reporting, automations in, recording transactions, but also, I mean, I came back with a real idea of how our business was going to use NetSuite going forward, and so it was well worth the investment for me and for our team. And now, we have the team, including management, fighting for who gets a chance to attend.
Yeah, no, very, very wise, all of those words, Scott. And I guess a related question is how do you maximize ROI without becoming this conference zombie that one can easily in a conference like SuiteWorld?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And, like as I've learned over time, what works for me, it's going into it with some very specific goals in mind when I show up. In fact, in my mind, I go there with what I kind of consider the 3-goal rule, which is take my top 3 pain points that I want to find a distinct solution for, and I kind of form my strategy all around that. I tend to look for the breakout sessions that are on those topics. When I'm talking to vendors or even talking to, just someone networking over lunch, I'm asking questions about those specific 3 pain points. And the other good part about that is, because it's a pretty overwhelming, is that, it allows me to narrow down what I'm attending and what I'm doing, and then without guilt, kind of not worrying about the rest of the items, because I'm there very focused on those 3 pain points.
And here's a secret. Trust me, don't think about your ROI and you will find it. The best ROI often comes from casual conversations with someone who's already faced these problems and can give you the solutions. I encourage all of you to talk to your network folks and also the ones in the breakout sections or at lunch, when you're having roundtable sessions with somebody in your industry, and you will find a lot of solutions. Trust me, 40,000 NetSuite customers, somebody has already faced some of the challenges that you are facing right now.
That's definitely pearls of wisdom right there from Kishore. What do you say about company versus personal goals, Kishore? You touched upon goals. How do you think about that?
I don't think they're separate. Smart professionals can do both. Company goals, you want to automate a particular process and you need to find the solution. And personal goal, you want to be the NetSuite expert that people come to. I don't think they're competing, they're complementary. So you can achieve both of them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, look, the company goals that I think of when I go there, everyone always wants better reporting. They want, they want to do less manual data entry. They want to automate the ways their manual processes. So those are easy goals for me to take to the conference. Personally, I don't want to work weekends at month end. So like I'm very tuned in when I go there, just from a personal goal standpoint, is how can I kind of reduce my, overhead and burden, which of course benefits the company.
Yeah, that's spot on, Scott. I completely agree with that. Nobody wants to work the weekends, ideally, if they can avoid it. Okay, changing tack a little bit. A lot of conversations come up around sessions, right? Session strategy, how to get the most out of them. So let's talk the agenda builder, the big thing, right? And I kind of often hear people saying, "Oh, this is where all the good intentions go to die," because when you see the entire extent of it, wow, that's crazy. So Scott, how do you choose sessions without having a breakdown?
Well, this is one area that I can speak to as sort of my rookie mistake, if you will. I love the sessions at SuiteWorld. There are so many that are interesting to me. Like I have interest in a lot of them. And my first year, I made the mistake of just loading up on just packing my calendar with every available spot. I think on the first day, my first year, I did like 7 breakout sessions. And by the end of the day, I was just fried and I wasn't getting out of it. I noticed that I was kind of tuning out, looking at my phone a little bit more. And so now I think I take a little more pragmatic approach. I try to stick to about 3 sessions a day, 3 breakout sessions. And, that's my way of kind of avoiding my brain being pudding by the end of the day.
The biggest rookie mistake I've seen people do is packing every minute because they're paying for this. I would say that's totally wrong. Leave gaps for the magic to happen. Absorb and digest. Take breaks and rest. Be careful on the sessions you're signing up. Like Scott said, you might just sign up for everything, but understand the skill level and what stream it is, and if you really would need it or not.
Yeah, totally makes sense, guys. Keynote, worth dragging yourself out of bed for that?
Look, I'll just speak up and say definitely. Like I love the keynotes. I would recommend to go out to all of them. I think there's 3 or 4 this year. Look, here's what I love about the keynotes. First of all, there's just a lot of energy there. It's fun to be there with all the NetSuite users. You feel like you're kind of part of a bigger movement. There's big product announcements, and you just get a vibe for where NetSuite's going. But even more so, like this is a strategic place to be because Oracle's roadmap in many ways is my company's strategic roadmap, right? Where I'm seeing even though I'm there for my problems that I'm dealing with today, I am probably expected to go back to my company and say, here's where we're going. Here's what we're going to do with NetSuite into the future. And so seeing their roadmap helps me to envision how we're going to maximize, our NetSuite usage into the future.
Yeah, honestly, the energy in the room sets the tone for everything else. You leave feeling like you're part of something big. And Oracle NetSuite works hard to put up a show, and the product roadmap and new features are always exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree. Last year's keynote was just a spectacle, is how I would call it. It was quite spectacular. So breakout sessions. How do you separate wheat from chaff here?
Like I said before, be careful on what sessions you sign up. Read the agenda of the session that you're signing up for. Look at the skill level and also what stream it is. I've always liked to go where the panel has clients so they can share from their own experiences. They have great suggestions on how to solve a problem. Also, keep in mind, they're more than happy to talk to you outside of the session. So I'd go with all my questions to these folks who already solved these things in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo that from Kishore, and I'd even add, like, some of this has to do with what your intention is to be at SuiteWorld. If you're a brand new NetSuite user, maybe the sessions that matter most to you are just a broad overview of what the features are that you purchased or that you should be purchasing. And so in that case, there's some marketing sessions where there's more high-level overviews that might be the best for you. For me, when I go, I'm looking for sessions put on by solution architects, maybe from some strategic partners that have some really unique solutions and problems that they've solved. And like Kishore said, I'm looking for sessions that have very specific numbers and timelines that they have some results that I can kind of latch onto. I will say that if you haven't registered, you should register as early as possible. Some of the more popular sessions fill up, and so the earlier you can get sort of your spot in those sessions, the better. And but even if you don't, and there's a session you really want to go to that seems like it's going to be right at bullseye for what you're looking for, just still show up at the session, even if it's full. A lot of times they'll let people come in standing room only. It's worth it to still try. It's better to go and try to get that one session that's the most important for you than to just skip it. So it's worthwhile.
And what do you guys think about the expo hall? I mean, this is where people either love it or hide from it, just run away from it. How do you guys approach it?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. For me, when I first get to the show, when it's still quiet, even before the expo hall is up and running, I'll kind of do a little strategic reconnaissance walkthrough, kind of see where the vendors are, see who's there at the show, get a feel for the layout, what things are going. So that's helpful because I don't try to go to every booth. I don't know if that's possible. So I really try to go just from specific vendor to specific vendor, and I try to avoid the the allure of the vendor grabbing you to pull you in to give you their half-hour pitch. So, for me, it's about specifically looking for which vendors I want to talk to, and then making a little bit of a game plan to go back to them when I'm in the expo hall.
Yeah, and then, shameless plug time. Visit booth number 332. We'll showcase our month-end closer accelerator and some really cool suite tabs. But on a serious note, I would say be strategic on the booths you will visit, because there can be an overload of visual distraction, and also the music and noise can get to you. Try to first cover the booths and solutions you want to check. Allocate time for it. Don't think you can cover everything in just the happy hour. You'll not be able to do it.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So being strategic is kind of the point that you guys are talking about, which I think is fair. Okay, switching on to thinking about Vegas logistics, because this requires a section of its own. So what would you say? Quick logistic tips for people who've never done business in the Sin City. When should the mayor models arrive? Kishore?
I would say Monday afternoon, if possible. Give your time to decompress from the travel, scope out the venue, register early, and arrive Tuesday ready for the battle instead of jet lagged and tired.
Well, I can just say ditto to that. My first year, we showed up the morning of, and I think I missed part of the first big sessions, and just felt I didn't feel like I had my bearings right out of the gate. So I think that's an important thing, is get there the day before for sure. And the other thing is if you get there early, that gives you a little bit more time for networking, and you can start to kind of build your base for the week.
Yeah, fair. What do we do about the hotels? I mean, hopefully most of us have actually registered and booked hotels, but for the folks who haven't, thoughts?
Yeah, I noticed the other day that, like, through the website, I think the hotel registrations are closed now, but I believe you can still call and there's rooms available. And they don't set aside every hotel room in the hotels that they're providing. So you could still purchase just directly from the hotels. The rates might be a little higher. Other options might be to find a more budgetary hotel a little bit off the strip or further away. Just be sure you kind of budget some funds for Uber and Lyft to get to the show each day, get there and back. And then there are other hotels that aren't, the key ones in the show that are within walking distance of the show. And there's both casino and non-casino versions. So you can certainly find a hotel around the forum or near the forum that, is a reasonable walk.
Yeah, just make sure that Caesar's Forum is at the epicenter. Anything within the walking distance is great. There are hotels, like Scott said, there are hotels with and without casinos, and Link and Harris have a bridge, so you don't have to get into the heat to come to the forum, right? So to come to the conference. So, I would look at those two hotels too.
Yeah, good call, Lincoln Harris. So power packing, what are the power packing trips for the perpetually busy folks who are always on the flight? I don't know. Packing for
Well,
Vegas.
yeah, Kishore mentioned the heat, and so I'll just say that it's still summer in Vegas in October. That is not fall yet. It's still very hot, and it can be over 100 degrees at times. So pack if you have to be outside. If you're going to be outside for any amount of time, either to walk from a hotel or just to go out onto the strip, you want to pack light clothes that are good for heat. But then the problem is that you have, you get into some of these sessions, and it feels like they have the air conditioner put down to 60, and so it can be very cold in some of the sessions, so you need to pack a jacket. So kind of layers is the way to go there. Some other things that I think are non-negotiable are like comfortable shoes. I made the mistake my first year of going in my good business casual with my nice dress shoes, and that was a mistake. So comfortable shoes, I mean, that's the key. You do walk a lot. I don't know what our watches say how many steps we take at these shows, but it's a lot. We're on our feet a lot. And then a couple other things that I've learned, bring a portable charger. They have good Wi-Fi, but the phone does seem to kind of drain quickly. So portable charger is really nice. And then, of course, your backpack. The show will give you a backpack or your own backpack. To put all these things in is nice, but also, a place to put the swag you pick up in the expo hall.
Yeah. Well, swag's my favorite thing to do. Just checking out the booths for the swag is kind of what I do all the time. Um, okay, so survival tactics. Let's talk about that. You guys touched upon it a little bit. Surviving Vegas without becoming a casualty. What are your hydration strategies? That comes first to mind.
Well, as someone coming from a not dry climate, um, this is something that I've had to kind of force myself to do, which is I just carry a water bottle with me everywhere, and I'm just always kind of drinking water because it is a dry place, and I mean even things like chapstick and whatnot help to avoid the dryness. After a few days, my lips start to feel chapped, and so yeah, I'd say water, water, water at every opportunity, probably more than you think of. And like I said, I just carry a water bottle with me and refill that so that I've got it with me all the time.
And then since it's Vegas, we got to give some tips on how to survive Vegas in the night too. So 1 glass of water per adult beverage is the prescription, or you'll be learning about NetSuite through a fog of regret. Trust me on this. I've seen brilliant CFOs, executives reduced to confused shadows by day 3.
Oh, that's funny. Wow, so water. Water is the way to handle it. Food strategy. So tell me, you guys have actual strategies for eating, right? I mean, it shouldn't involve bankrupting yourself.
You know, I would say conference food is okay. Not great, not bad, but I would stick to the conference for breakfast and lunch so that I can maximize my time. There are lots of great restaurants you can go out, but you're losing the time spending inside of the conference, meeting people, talking to them. And trust me, the food is not that bad. And then you can, check out your favorite restaurants for dinner, and also look out for partner dinners. They are fun too.
Yeah, I mean, I just add to that, don't skip meals. I mean, you don't want to be hangry when you're networking or sitting in sessions. So try to find a healthy food to eat. Like Kishore said, maybe at night you go out for your richer, more extravagant dinners. But during the day, don't skip the meals. Find the healthy foods, and just fuel your brain for the learning that's happening.
You bet. That's something I try and do, often forget, but I try and do. Um, okay, managing work while being there. It's a full-on immersive place. So how do you manage? I mean, we talked about month-end chaos. So how do we manage month-end chaos from Vegas? Scott?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is I guess the sad irony a bit is that you really are, leaving your team behind to go to this conference, hopefully so you can make a better team. So some of the things that I've done is, let people know well in advance you're going to be out. Try to set them up and know what they're going to be doing while you're there, so you don't have to manage that throughout the day. Um, you can put a vacation responder on your email so people kind of know and expect where you're at, and then yeah, just work on trying to have your team ready to go for month end before you go, and so that you can be there learning how to make future month ends way better.
Yeah, I tell my teams I'm investing 4 days into learning solutions to prevent most of these emergencies from occurring. So unless someone literally cannot function without me, it waits. Most crises can solve themselves.
Love that coming from a founder. Most crises can solve themselves. Should we remember that, Scott, for the team? Um, well, okay, so what is the inevitable work emergency strategy?
Yeah, I mean, things do come up, and I mean, and it's hard to like be away for so long, especially during month end close and things. So what I do is I just kind of set aside time in the morning, about an hour, block some time in the morning, block some time in the evening, and respond to emails, try to deal with any true emergencies that came up, and just, you know, just try to carve out so that my days can be free from work distractions, but still kind of stay connected, catch up with the team, and do the things that have to get done. that pop up through the week.
And when you do get pulled into calls, don't take them in the expo. It's always loud. And there are some quiet corners that you can use to take meetings. And if your hotel is nearby, one of the reasons why you need to have a hotel nearby, you can always go back to the hotel to take the call. Keep in mind, Oracle does provide great Wi-Fi, so that really helps.
And I think, relatedly, Kishore, taking meetings at SuiteWorld, I know you sort of said hotels, but is this some level of genius or complete madness?
You know, life goes on, so we just have to do what we have to do. So I would, also try and take breakfast calls and meetings before breakfast or at breakfast time, and also at happy hour time. Never during the prime learning hours. You're paying big money to access this knowledge, so don't waste it in meetings. I would highly encourage you to take as many face-to-face meetings as possible, although.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of learned this the hard way too, in the past, which is, I would try to use, like, say, lunchtime to meet with vendors and whatnot. And the problem with that is that I missed out on the networking opportunities. Lunchtime's a great time to network. I mean, I can't. Times I've sat down at a table of people I don't know, and before you know, we're swapping business cards and talking about how we can work together. So yeah, I would agree with that. There is opportunities to have meetings, but try to isolate them at the start or the end of the day so that you don't have to, so you can just kind of stay dialed in on throughout the middle of the day to the SuiteWorld events.
Great. And what are your networking tips? Not the easiest always to make the small talk.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, not everyone that comes to SuiteWorld feels like they're salespeople and are great at networking, but the reality is that everyone's kind of in the same boat here, right? We're all here to learn. We're all here with specific concerns that we have. So what I've found is you can kind of skip past the how's the weather chat and just get straight to, what are you trying to get out of SuiteWorld this year? What are your biggest NetSuite headaches? And it's so often how quickly you'll recognize that other people are there for some of the same reasons. You can really dive into some, you can really make some connections with just a couple direct questions.
Yeah, I would say don't be shy. You're not selling anything. You're collaboratively problem solving. There are other CFOs, executives want to help because they remember being where you are. Misery loves company, but solutions love sharing even more.
Oh, I love that last line. Misery loves company. So coming on to vendor pitch survival guide. How do you survive these vendor pitches, Scott?
Okay, so this is again another rookie mistake. What I used to do is go to the booth and say, "So tell me what you do," and then you get this long pitch, which is fine. But in reality, what I do now that I think is much more effective is just go to the vendors where I think, might be able to help and just tell them specifically what I'm looking for. I said, I'm looking to cut my month end, process from X days to Y days. And can you show me how you can help me with that? And so if you kind of direct the conversation, then they will tell you either, nah, that we don't really do that, or more often they'll be like, yeah, here's how we can help you. And so I find just if you can ask specific questions about your problem, it allows them to not just give you the generic pitch, but to dive right into what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's definitely very, very smart. I think cut to the chase. It's kind of what you're saying. Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting on to sort of some final wisdom here, guys. Parting wisdom for SuiteWorld rookies. Thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the wisdom here, and we've talked about a little bit, is like this isn't just a conference, but this is really an investment, not only in you but in your company. So make the most of it, right? Go there. Even though it's a time away from work, it's still a work session. It's time for you to really go get a lot of learning, and so that you can go back and make your company better. I mean, NetSuite is a big, powerful machine and we're probably all just using a fraction of it in our companies. So if we can go learn what we're doing and solve problems and figure them out, then that's the best part of it. When you go back and you're really armed with the information that you need to improve your company.
Yeah, I'd say the same. Think of it as paying tuition for your university. And the education can transform your entire relationship with NetSuite and your implementation and how you use NetSuite and streamline your business processes.
Yeah, investment. That's how you think about it. Yeah, fair. Post-conference reality check. I think we should touch on it. So, what happens after we leave the conference?
Well, if you're not careful, then life returns to just normal, and you get back in, and just get back to work, and you don't really implement what you just learned, or it's very difficult to. So for me, I try to make a point that within a week of getting back, I'm acting on the learnings, and that can be everything from setting up meetings with the team to make strategic plans for what we learned, share my notes from the conference, implement the things that I learned. To me, it's that 1 week time period, or else you get lost in the busyness of work, and you miss it. And the longer you delay in implementing it, then the chaos of work just kind of erases your insights. So you should strike when the motivation is fresh, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. Agree. I think we should be doing more of that this year, guys. Coming back and making sure that we're on top of that. So survival kit, I'm going to summarize what I think I've taken away. We've talked about being very strategic about, the agenda, what we're learning. We've talked about, maybe 3 big goals, 3 specific thoughts about what you're trying to learn and solve for. We've also talked about how to make it a really smooth without registration. So, hit that early, come in early, get settled early. Same for the registration desk. Hydration, comfortable shoes, and making sure you pack a charger. That was a big one for me personally. And I really like the 1 week implementation deadline. I think it's really important to make sure we take stuff down within the first week. And I think the last one, which Kishore is going to absolutely, I guess, want me to talk about, is the booth number 332. So you do have to come in and see us, guys, on booth number 332. We'd love to say hello. But yeah, that's sort of what I took away from it. Any additions? Anything else you guys want to add?
Now that you're talking about survival kit, Rashi, so it's dry in Vegas, so you definitely will need a chapstick. And there's lots of people, not just at the conference, but in Vegas in general. And you'll need some electrolytes to fight the germs. So come to booth number 332, say hi, and get your survival kit.
Yeah, and that would be my final thought. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things, and we've talked about learning, but ultimately, SuiteWorld is about the people that you meet. And we would just love to meet people. And we've emphasized the importance of coming by the booth, but that's because we want to see you. We want to say hi. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear your problems and challenges. We want to collaborate on these things. And ultimately, we just want to meet as many people and get to know you the best we can.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you for making it. May your closes be swift and your automations be flawless. See you on booth number 332. So with this, we're closing this out. And if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat box. We'll hang around for a little bit longer. We'll answer your questions, anything that we can help with.